What if I told you that you can grow your glutes without doing squats or deadlifts? While squats and deadlifts do work the glutes, they aren't the most efficient way to grow them. I used to see everyone posting their best PRs on Instagram and focus on doing squats and deadlifts for the first 2 years of my fitness journey. But here's the problem, I'm quad dominant, and although my glutes did grow, so did my quads. And proportionally, my glutes didn't look any bigger. Eventually, I hit a plateau and I couldn't overload my deadlifts and squats any further without getting injured, which would set me back a lot. So I started to do some research and came across Dr. Brett Contreras, or you might also know him as the glute guy. He made me realize that there are so many more exercises that I could choose from that were better for growing my glutes and also felt much safer. In this video, I'm going to share my 6 favorite exercises for growing my glutes even past the newbie stage gains. And I'm also going to talk about some of the struggles I've faced throughout the years, as well as what I plan on doing next to continue growing my glutes. Fun fact, your glutes are the strongest and largest muscle in your body. They're composed of 3 muscles, the glute maximus, the glute medius, and the glute minimus. The function of your glutes is hip extension, hip abduction, hip stabilization, and internal rotation. So here's why I feel like squats and deadlifts are maybe not the best choices when it comes to growing your glutes. Number 1, these exercises are compound exercises and they recruit other muscle groups like your hamstrings and your quads, for example. So your glutes aren't necessarily the primary muscle worked in those exercises. For example, if you're quad dominant like me, you might feel the squats more in your quads than your glutes. And as you progressively overload the exercise, I feel like it becomes harder and harder to overload your glutes because for me, my quads will take over and it will also require a lot of lower back and core stability for me to be able to increase the weight progressively without getting injured. The other issue is that your glutes will be the most active at full hip extension, whereas the squat will have the most tension at the bottom of the movement instead of at lockout. Last but not least, I feel like fatigue might interfere with how much you're working your glutes. So you might feel your grip fail or your hamstrings fail or your core fail before your glutes do in those exercises. So you wouldn't be taking your glutes fully to failure in that case. But don't get me wrong, squats and deadlifts are still really great exercises and they do deserve a place in some workout programs. But in this video, we're really looking to grow our glutes specifically without growing our quads or hamstrings. So there are better exercises to do that. And one of the biggest factors that helped me choose the right exercises was how much glute activation I felt. And that is going to be different from one person to the other because we all have unique hip anatomy. My favorite exercise when it comes to growing my glutes has always been the hip thrust because of the potential for overload. We all know that progressive overload is the most important principle when it comes to muscle growth. And because you can lift so heavy with the hip thrust and in a very safe way, I feel like it's one of the best exercises to grow my glutes. You can also do this exercise in various ways. You could do it on the Smith machine, you could do a barbell hip thrust, you could do a unilateral hip thrust, you could do the hip thrust machine. There's just so many ways to set this exercise up. After the hip thrust, I am a huge fan of Bulgarian split squats, and not only because I'm Bulgarian, but these are great because they provide a really deep stretch, and that can leave you sore for days. So I only do these once a week, and you don't even have to go very heavy in order to feel these in your glutes. As long as you have the glute-focused position, then you're going to feel your glutes are on fire. An alternative to the Bulgarian split squats for me is the glute-focused leg press, where I put my legs a bit higher to create that 90-degree at my knees. And I feel like this exercise provides a bit less of a stretch, but does have more potential for overload. So I really enjoy it as well. This pretty much covers my favorite compound exercises when it comes to growing my glutes, and I have been focusing on these to try and grow my glutes past the newbie stage gain, which has been a lot harder. When it comes to isolation movements, I love the kickbacks. I feel like these are just going to burn out your glutes completely at the end of your workout. And I also feel like discovering the 45-degree hyperextension has been a huge game changer for me. I feel like the movement is very similar to RDLs, but feels a lot safer because your hips are supported. And I feel like these have been responsible for the most progress when it comes to growing my upper glutes. And although you could go pretty heavy on these, you could also take them to the next level if you add a resistance band. The constant tension is just going to leave your glutes on fire. And the last isolation exercise I do is the abductor machine, and you can do these leaning forward or leaning back. So here's what my 2 glute days look like with the exact sets and reps. Give it a try and let me know what you thought down below in the comment section. Now, getting the right exercises is only step 1. What has really made a difference for me is sticking to those same exercises for long enough to see progress. And what I mean by that is 1, improving my form, and 2, being able to progressively overload them. Because building muscle doesn't take weeks, it takes years. So let's talk about what I am thinking of doing in order to continue to make progress, because there's always room for improvement. One of my biggest challenges has been consistency. I am usually only able to stick to the same exercises for about 4 to 6 weeks at a time before life gets in the way and we move places and I fall off track to then have to get back on track. Normally, you would want to stick with the same exercises for 8 to 12 weeks at least in order to really see a progressive overload with them. So this is definitely something that I would want to improve first before changing anything else in my routine. Next, once I get my consistency right, I feel like it's great to stick to the same exercises if you're continuously being able to progressively overload them, but there might come a time where you might hit a plateau, and that's when I feel like it might be a good idea to switch up your routine. And I am looking to potentially integrate a few new exercises in my routine every 3 to 6 months, depending on how consistent I am able to be. Last but not least, I am looking to increase the frequency of my workout. So I am looking to add a 3rd glute day to my routine. And I had tried this before, but I was struggling with recovery. So this time I'm taking a bit of a different approach where my 3rd glute day is going to be a very high rep and light glute day that I could do at home using only bands. Let me know a little bit about your glute journey and what you've been struggling with, what has worked well. I would love to see your comments down below. And if you want to build your own glute workout plan, you might like this video next, where I'm going to talk about a balanced glute workout plan with specific exercise examples and alternatives so that you can personalize it for your own goals. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.